Welcome to the Podium Athlete, the show where we bring together elite athletes and coaches from around the world to discuss youth sports, mindset, training, and the pursuit of reaching the podium. I'm your host, Chris Fote, three-time Olympian and current head coach of the USA bobsled team. Today's guest is Paralympic snowboarder Zach Miller. Now, Zach is a fighter from day one as he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy shortly after birth. Zach battled setbacks throughout his childhood, on the hill, and with injuries as he worked tirelessly to become a Paralympian in 2022. He has gone on to win an ESPY award, cementing his status as not just an inspiration, but one of the best athletes in the world. He is training hard to get back to the Paralympics in 2026 and bring home some medals. So Zach, tell me how training is going for the 2026 Paralympic Games.
It's going well. It's definitely starting to get scientific right about now. My daily workouts are starting to get very, very nerdy. There's a big focus on data right now.
Yep.
And it's cool because, now I'm kind of in that section where we're starting to plot some more points and kind of getting the idea of the trajectory that we're on, which makes it fun because then that's where the work really starts, right? So, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing the last couple weeks have been building into some new blocks and doing some new movements, getting uncomfortable in the gym for sure.
Very important.
And now I'm kind of progressing into this like, okay, now's the time where we start ramping the numbers up. So for me, it's exciting just because I always love the science behind sports. And right now I'm just diving into that head first.
Good. I think that's one great thing the US OPC has done recently is they're trying to quantify in the amount of technological resources we have in the States, and they're trying to apply that to sports. We kind of have the same thing going right now with the bobsled team. With that, speaking of, so the bobsled track in Cortina just got finished. Only a handful of athletes have raced on it. So for you, the course that you will be racing on, have you raced on it before, and do you feel comfortable where it is?
We have sketches.
Okay.
That's usually how border cross works anyways.
Okay.
You never ride the same course twice.
Wow.
We go to a lot of the same places on the World Cup circuit, but it's always a different course.
Okay.
Sometimes, the major turns are in the same place, but they do mix it up every time. There's always a new start section. There's always new jumps. There's always new rhythm sections. And so I like it because it definitely keeps you on your feet.
Yep.
There's no way that you can prepare for it beforehand. You show up, 2 days before the World Cup, just like everybody else does. You get eyes on course, you take a couple practice laps, and then you go.
Okay. How many practice laps do you get then? That is I did not realize it was a brand new course and kind of a brand new spot each time. So how many practice runs do you get before each World Cup race?
It's highly dependent on the hosting mountain, basically. Sometimes we have World Cups like the stop that we usually have in Finland. One of the ways they actually end up funding the World Cup is by hosting a training camp the week before. So they'll have up like what is kind of going to be the World Cup course. Like it's pretty similar. But usually it's toned down a little bit just so that, development athletes can show up and get some runs on it and start to kind of build into that border cross mentality.
Okay.
And so sometimes, you have a whole week to get reps in, and then, 2 days before the World Cup, they'll go in and reshape it. So then they'll go in there, they'll kind of cut out some bigger sections. They'll make some, some jumps mandatory, stuff like that. And then you'll come back out, you'll note the changes, and you'll race. But generally, the format is usually just one training day.
Wow.
You usually also, because there's a lot of athletes, you're given usually like a 2-hour time slot.
Okay.
So just as many runs as you can get into that. Sometimes
just
again,
ripping them down back and forth.
Yeah, that's also dependent on the mountain, whether or not like you have lift access that goes right to the course, or if you're gonna have to, take a couple turns to get there. You get as many runs in as you can. You go home, you dream about it, and then you show up the next day. You get one inspection, just slow. You got to stay out of the course. You can look at it, note the snow conditions and stuff, and then you usually get one training run, and then you're right into at least the time trials, and from there you just go to racing.
Okay, so we'll come back and talk about that a little bit later. But kind of what you just said. So this is a great segue into that. So right now, I was up in the mountains yesterday. There is no snow.
Yeah.
So obviously you need snow to do your actual sport. So how are you training right now for your sport?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, a lot of it is not on my snowboard. It's doing a lot of stuff in the gym. It's going through a lot of different movements, trying to build basically, relative power is a term that we use a lot. So just trying to figure out how much power we can generate, and it's usually within a short amount of time. I mean, today I was doing back squats and I had to be moving at least 0.6 meters per second, So there's a lot of that stuff. But there's also ways that you can still kind of practice for the things you do on snow without being on snow yourself. One great resource we have up at the Center of Excellence, the U.S. Ski and Snowboard facility up there, is we have a start gate. That's pretty awesome to have.
Yep.
We haven't had that really before. That's like a new resource to me that I just got access to 2 years ago, and it's cool because they have the like brush kind of
So it's like
style
snow.
Yeah, you've seen it before. And so yeah, we have that, and it's just the start gate to a small downhill transition, and then it's just flat off into a foam pit.
Okay.
And so the cool thing is, because they're our own handles and everything, they've built these sensors into them so that we got a laptop up, and then you give the athlete the cadence, races ready, attention, and then you drop the gate. And when I come back around, I can see my response time, the lateral force and vertical force
That is really
in
cool.
each hand too. And so there's also plenty of plot points you can get throughout the summer of like, are my response times getting faster? Is the work that I'm doing in the gym translating to a harder or faster pull? And so you got stuff like that too that you can always do.
I think that's really cool. I think it's something that sports science has recently brought about is the ability to get that feedback. Because beforehand, you would pull and they would ask you, how'd that feel? And of course, your answer was good, or maybe I felt a little, off in this hand or that hand. But now your coaches know, hey, are you improving? But it's also good for you for your strength program is you can see the actual results. You don't have to quit being on ice in March or April and then training the whole off season, hoping that you are getting faster.
Exactly.
Now you actually know that you're getting faster. So that's very, very cool. And then how many of those kind of pulls or how many of those starts can you practice each day before you either get tired or kind of loses its, value?
I mean, you'll see in the data for sure. You can't just sit there and pull an infinite amount of times, obviously. But usually it's just like a once a week thing that we'll do. So I'll just pick a day. For right now, it's usually been like Wednesdays because I have my heaviest lift on Monday, and then I usually have a pretty heavy one on Friday because I got the weekend coming up. And so Wednesdays are like ISOs and stuff in the gym, just to like still kind of build capacity, but not tire myself out. And so yeah, I'll usually just bring my snowboard up and get like, you don't have to go crazy, just like 15, 20 pulls.
Okay.
It's still a decent amount. Sometimes it's just 10 and then it's like, all right, I'm good. You're digging yourself out of the foam pit every time, and that takes effort too. So you get them in when you can, really.
Okay. So that's most of your training then. You do weights about twice a week. You do your pulls on Wednesday. And then what else are you doing? Are you doing any running, any type of yoga, trying to stretch, doing any running type of stuff? Or is it mostly just the lifting and then being on your board?
Conditioning is definitely a part of it. Right now I'm actually doing 3 gym days a week.
Wow.
So it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are like the gym heavy days. What I like to do is then mix in either on like Tuesdays, Thursdays, if I'm feeling it, or definitely the weekends. I just like to go skateboarding because that's a great translate, a good board sport that translates.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we have a couple cool pump tracks in Utah, and that's like almost identical to what we do just on asphalt.
Okay.
So to me, like that's a great way just to bring some headphones and stuff and go pump around for a little bit. I'll do that as well. But yeah, there's also a focus of like, I got a stationary bike at home. Yep. So we'll do like embedded tests over the weekend, just like these kind of just where are you at? It's not mandatory or anything. But yeah, for the most part, I am kind of technically a sprint athlete. Most of our courses are usually like 2 minutes or shorter.
Okay.
So there's never any need to like
a ton of endurance or run like a marathon crazy. Or anything crazy like that.
Yeah, but there's always benefits,
Yeah, it always helps. Okay. So let's take a step back a little bit. I really want to hear about your journey of how you got into snowboarding. So it's not a mainstream sport in the sense of most high school people aren't doing it on a competitive basis. But I want to start, you were born with, cerebral palsy.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what sports did you play growing up, and what impact did that have on your ability to do sports?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting looking back to see where I ended up. I feel like I had no other choice, really, when I look at it, for a couple things. Number one, I've always been competitive. I think a big factor in that was just having an older brother who was objectively just like a naturally talented athlete. And so, I mean, when I started right out of the gate and was diagnosed at 6 months old, I started therapy right away. And so I just kind of grew up like with the hospital as my second home. I spent a lot of time there doing treatment, lots of physical therapy, just constantly checking in with doctors, because cerebral palsy is, the way I like to describe it is, it's like if you planted like a little sapling, like a little tree. You have to take care of it as it grows. And usually you have to kind of put stakes in, you have to brace it to make sure it grows properly. That tree effectively is very similar to your skeletal system when you're growing up. Your bones will just grow. They don't need anybody to tell them to do it. You get the food and the milk in and the bones grow. And then with your muscles, their job is to hold everything in place. And so they're the stakes, right, in the situation. The problem with me is that I was cut off from oxygen and essentially suffered a stroke during fetal development. That's how I ended up with CP. That's how most people end up with CP.
Interesting.
And so as a result, like I'm sure you've seen a stroke survivor. I had a lot of those symptoms out of the gate, which is interesting because I obviously never had a point in my life where I was able-bodied and kind of had to like start over. So it kind of almost works out a little bit, because then like it's
all
always,
that you knew.
Exactly. It's always been what my life and body has been like. And I've had 26 years to improve on it and to go to physical therapy and to build on all of these things. So I started really young, really early, and my doctors noticed right away. Like when I was on the exam table and they were testing my reflexes, or they were, kind of holding my feet and being like, all right, push against me. I was like gripping the table and just giving it everything. And so they told my parents, they were like, you got to get this kid in sports. Really cool. And they're like, well, we already have him in everything. He's playing soccer, he's playing baseball. Like he's chasing after his big brother all the time. I don't know what else he could possibly do. And that's when they said, well, we have a sports program for kids that are regular patients here. It's now called the ARCH program that Children's Hospital still has to this day. Really cool. And at the time it was like February. And so they were like, hey, we're doing ski lessons up at Winter Park. Has your kid ever gone skiing? And she's like, oh, well, I guess he hasn't done that. So we never thought to like drive him up to the mountains. We'll try it out. So they put me on a bus there at the they're at the hospital in Denver. I got onto a bus with a bunch of other kids that, I had nothing in common with them except for the fact that they were all regular patients too. Like we all had our own stories. We all came from very different walks of life, and we all had our own challenges. But we were just, there to go out and learn to ski for a day. And I had way too much fun. Like when I got back, my mom, puts me in the car. She gets in, starts the car, and then she goes, how was it? And I was like, gone. Lights out. She had never seen me like that before. And when I woke up, I wouldn't shut up about how much I wanted to go and do it again. So I discovered snowboarding, through my hospital program, through the treatment that I was always, going to be a part of. But I think I then really leaned into it and decided like, I want to do this because of just that competitive nature I had always had. I told all my friends, like, I want to be a professional snowboarder one day. That's amazing. And most of them were just like, you're ridiculous. You can't do this, Why would you think that? Like, calm down. And I was just like, no, this is going to happen. That's really cool.
I guess my question then, you, with the cerebral palsy, was there any moments, I guess, as you were learning to snowboard, or was there any frustration that maybe your progress was slower than you wanted it to be? Or did you kind of hit it, and because you grew up playing sports, that's all that you knew, that you were a, natural at it? Or was there moments where you maybe fell more often or had a harder time trying to balance on them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I actually don't think I've ever thought about it that way, but I think that's a really, important way to look at it. For me, I knew I had good genetics for sports because I had my older brother and he was a star athlete. And so I just wanted to be like him. Like I just wanted to keep up with him and compete with him. But it definitely got frustrating because, cerebral palsy is a neurological disability. So it means that my brain's ability to connect and talk to my muscles is impaired.
It's different. Yep.
And so all the time there were these moments where I knew what I needed to do.
Yeah.
I understood the concept that was being, coached to me, but then it felt like I could not get my body to do it. And it would result in a lot of extra falls and slower progress. And I hated that.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that really not held me back, but just made like being the athlete I wanted to be a challenge was that with CP, it's also a very inefficient disability. Your brain has to send a lot more signals to the muscles it's trying to get a hold of to get them to do what you want them to do. And so because of that like lack of coordination, I would spend so much energy so quickly.
Yeah.
And then I'd fall off real aggressive.
Just crash because you were just spent.
But because I was so competitive, I just kept going.
Okay.
And then I would get home and like everything would lock up.
And you'd be tight. And
yeah, I'm sure you've been pretty sore after like a heavy workout. I was like flat out done after just trying to like keep up with my friends in PE. Like I would actually get in the car after like a middle school basketball game and I would go home. And by the time we made it like to the house, which is only, 30 minutes away, I couldn't get myself out of the car.
Wow.
So my dad or my brother had to scoop me out of the car and just take me upstairs, help me get ready for bed, and then move me into bed because my muscles had shut down for the day. They had given up. They were taxed way more than they were ready for.
Yep.
And that was this consistent thing I had to deal with. And so it became frustrating because you know what you need to do to progress and you want to do it. Like I wanted to be as fast, as the rest of my friends, my brother. And so I would be willing to put the work in, but my body wasn't.
Would just completely,
Oh, and it was so frustrating.
That is absolutely wild. So the fact that you could work through that at a young age, I think the mental strength you probably gained from that is probably carried over into what you're doing now. But obviously as a kid, I'm sure there were days that there were some ups and downs. How important was the support of your brother and your parents throughout that whole process?
Oh man, I'll try not to get emotional about this bit. Cause I never would have ended up where I am without them. They say it takes a village. Dude, for me, it took a lot more than that. Like it took everybody pitching in and making like big sacrifices for it too. My mom, since day one, she was there fighting for me. I call her my mama bear just because like she always was in my corner and fighting for what she knew was best for me.
Yeah.
And having that kind of support from your family makes it easier in the tough times, right? Because that support network, having that to fall back on when things don't go your way, which in professional sports, things don't go your way most of the time, I would say.
Very true.
Unless you're, some real standout cases, things are not going your way a lot.
Yep.
And it takes a certain kind of support network to be okay with that, right? To trust that like you don't always have to succeed in order to come home to people who are going to love and support you, who aren't going to care about the results, but just that you're out there doing your best. And I think like that was the biggest role that my family played, was that they didn't care if I won or lost. They cared that I went out there and I did my absolute best. If I left everything on the field or the court or the snow, they were proud of me and they told me that. And that meant a lot to me growing up.
Yeah. I just got some goosebumps you saying that again. I can't say that enough to all the parents out there. I know sometimes kids can be a pain because they don't want to practice. You have to force them to practice and they're an emotional roller coaster. But I was kind of the same way. My parents, through my ups and downs in sports, were so supportive, and having that safe space, because on the field, on the court, you are in a very vulnerable state because you can fail in front of people. You fail in front of your school, your friends, and being able to have that, your teammates.
Yeah.
And if you let your teammates down, be able to come home, those car rides home where you're kind of emotional, and it's, as a dude, sometimes it's hard to say, as I'm sure for girls now too, but like you're in the car kind of crying behind you, want your friends to see you, but like having parents that support you through that is just absolutely crucial. So I could give advice to parents. I know it's hard because there's some long trips, there's long journeys, and kids can be very frustrating. But at the end of the day, what they need the most is your support and a place to comfort them. As long as they're doing the best and they keep trying, the results will come.
Yeah.
Which is crucial.
Yep.
Okay. So you're growing up, your brother's kind of the all-star of the town, playing all these sports. What sports did you play then through junior high and high school?
It was soccer and basketball mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, I discovered snowboarding when I was, 8 years old, but I didn't see it for a potential, career opportunity
Yep.
Until much later. And so for the most part, yeah, it was just going to school, getting good grades, and yeah, trying not to get picked last in PE. I was definitely the most competitive kid in my class, but I wasn't always picked first, and that ate away at me for sure. But then I also wanted to excel in the sports teams we did have. I went to a smaller school, so all we had for the guys was basketball and soccer, and so I played those just because I wanted to be in sports. I struggled on the basketball team because I was always like the shortest kid out there. I was a shooting guard, and I did everything I could to like put the practice in to, make my threes and show that I could, pass the ball too, which, isn't the most common thing at that age, right?
You want to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. And in soccer, I loved getting out there and training. So I messed around with a bunch of different positions on the field. I liked being a goalkeeper for a while. And then I liked defense more just because I liked actually getting out and stretching my legs. I liked the fact that I could sprint as fast as the other kids. And so on defense, you might not always be sprinting like the midfielders, but if you need to hit that high gear to keep up with, the threat from the other team, I could do that. And so I was just trying to find, my place. I was trying to find where I could not just fit in, but excel. And then as I started to get a little bit older, and I learned about snowboard racing. That was when like the focus just shifted entirely because I found the sport so exciting. Like, in my opinion, border cross is objectively like one of the coolest winter sports out there.
I would agree.
Aside of any of the other disciplines, like I show people videos of border cross and they're like, that's insane. That's so much more fun to watch than like slope style, big air, half pipe, any of those. It's 4 guys racing, 4 to 6 sometimes, racing at the same time down like the craziest obstacle course.
I've seen it where there's been crashes, people fall onto each other, they fall off course. You're kind of, trying to throw elbows, but not get disqualified either. So I'm sure that's crazy.
It's a spectator sport for sure. And once I discovered that, it was game over. Like I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I was snowboarding kind of recreationally and for fun. And then my instructors noticed I was very competitive and that I wanted to go fast. I didn't want to learn like how to turn. The way that they finally convinced me to learn how to do that was because they were like, do you want to be able to control your speed so that you can go faster? And I was like, yes. And they were like, then you need to learn how to turn.
Not to be safe, but I want to actually learn. I want to go faster, so I need to learn how to turn to build up more speed going down the hill.
That was how they convinced me to be like actually become a better snowboarder. And so, then I found out about the sport, and that was when I also found out about the Paralympics. I had no clue that there was like this whole career opportunity for athletes with disabilities. So then that was when it tied the knot and it became real of like, I can actually be a professional athlete. If I can keep up with these guys and start to like learn how to race on these crazy courses, this could be something I could do for the rest of my life, And so then once that clicked, I was like, I don't care about anything else. I don't care about soccer. I don't care about it. Like I am 100% focused on racing.
So with that though, because I do think one of the threads I like to pull out is what I'm seeing right now in youth sports. And I have a son who's 10, almost 11. And I see a lot of parents kind of concerned about putting their kids in multiple sports. They want to have them play baseball. That's only sport they want to play, or basketball, and do it year round with these travel teams. How much do you think playing basketball and soccer has helped you become a better snow cross athlete?
Ooh, that's a great question. Because I think it did play an important role. The one thing that I really thank my parents for is just like giving me the chance to do a bunch of different things, to find out what it is that I liked. For a while, I was pretty sold on soccer. Once they had introduced me to that sport and I started to get pretty decent at it and I was able to compete, I really thought I was going to go the distance in soccer. I even started training with the Paralympic men's team.
Oh, you did?
And so I was like, dude, soccer is the move. But then the snowboard opportunities kept coming because my coaches started to realize like this kid has a need for speed. And like with this sport that's just now becoming official too, 2014 was the first Paralympic Games that had border cross in it.
Wow. Okay.
So then once, that was in the works, then I had a lot of coaches that were, saying like, hey, there's an opportunity for success here. What do you think about this? And so I won't say that it was easy.
Yeah.
My parents had to make a lot of sacrifices for me. Driving up to the mountains from the heart of Denver is not a fun drive.
Yeah, trying to run someone to a soccer practice or a baseball practice, usually at the school or a gym down the street versus going into the mountains.
Way more simple. Yeah. That's way harder to get up into the mountains. The tickets are more expensive. The gear's more expensive. It's a risky investment to make in a kid when you don't know exactly what they're gonna fall in love with yet. But I think, my parents were also smart about it, right? We looked for the opportunities that were available to us to get me on snow without having to spend as much money. I don't come from a super rich, successful family. And so we had to figure out compromises of how we were just going to get on snow. And the other beneficial thing for me was that there are a lot of adaptive programs in the United States that are available to people with disabilities that want to try new sports, just getting more of an active lifestyle, and they there's a lot of different nonprofits out there who specialize in, getting the equipment available to do that kind of thing. And so then that was it. It was going through our hospital to get a lot of, free laps that way and some instruction. And then it was networking. And it was learning how to be part of a community in sport that I feel like basketball and soccer did for me. I don't compete in a team sport, but I still have to be a good teammate to be where I am right now. I'm still a part of a team. We have to travel the world. We all have to work together, And so it was learning those skills as a kid of just how to fit in on a team, how to be a good teammate, how to cheer for all my friends, how to eat the losses together, and celebrate the wins, and just how to contribute to the community that is sport, because that played the most valuable role for sure with me as a kid.
I love that you hit on that. And I think that's something that can sometimes get lost in sports is people want to win so bad. And again, I've been to 3 Olympic Games. I love to win. I'm currently the coach of the USA bobsled team. I want my athletes to all win gold medals. The next one's to win a silver and bronze. I want to sweep the podium. And I want to win. That being said, there is a place that sports teaches us so much outside of just winning. You mentioned it. How to become friends, how to deal with hard losses when you're the one that misses a shot or has a turnover, and how do you still keep those friendships? How do you keep going when you're tired? When you don't want to practice, when it's cold outside, and the leadership skills that you learn. And so I can't stress enough how important it is to keep kids in sports. It's not only the lessons they learn and the success they'll have on the court, on the hill, or on the track, but it's those life lessons they can take with them as they get into college, even into their job, and as a parent, that teaches you just a ton. And that's why I'm really pushing to try and keep kids playing sports as long as we possibly can.
Seriously. To add to that, sports are an emotional thing. The reason I am so close with my teammates on the snowboard team is because we have been through the highest highs and the lowest lows together. And sports will do that. Man, they get under your skin. They teach you hard lessons. They make you feel like you will never die sometimes. When you really bring home the win, you feel untouchable. And going through that, especially as a kid, that teaches you how important emotional regulation is.
100%. Absolutely.
So definitely some valuable lessons to be learned there that translate to all the other walks of life,
That's absolutely crucial. So I appreciate you saying that. And then, so you're in this balance point, or you're at this point in your life where you have to choose either, at some point you do have to choose a sport. And if you want to make it to the very, very top, you have to kind of choose your sport. So what age were you when you kind of gave up basketball and soccer and really chose snowboarding? And what did that look like as far as a lifestyle change? You're still in high school, the World Cup or the national teams here in Utah. So how did you kind of balance still being in school while trying to grow and develop as a professional Paralympian?
Yeah, it's a good question. The good news is basketball made the decision for me. I was never meant to be successful in that sport, and that's okay. Soccer was definitely the one I didn't want to let go at first. Like I said before, I'd made it to the point where I was training with the national team. I was going to camps with them. We were planning on going to competitions. But then, that season's snowboard competition calendar came out. And that was where I was right on the verge of I had made the World Cup circuit, but it was still, I had to break into that top 20 that top 15 to like mean something and maybe make it a career. And so it ended up, again, kind of in a way, making the decision for me. Because once I got the snowboard calendar and I looked at the soccer calendar, I was like, uh-oh, they do not mix at all. And I remember calling the soccer coach and explaining the situation and asking him if there was any possibility for me to be a dual sport athlete. Because you've seen some athletes, go and do that. And it's incredible if you can do both. It is. And he told me really quick, absolutely not. You're either dedicated to this team or we'll find someone else to replace you. And I just went, oh, cool. I want nothing to do with that. And just hung up the phone. And so then that's when I knew like snowboarding was by far the more fun sport. I appreciated that. There's a little bit of truth, to every stereotype. And snowboarding, there's a lot of truth to those, for sure. I love the fact that, I basically get to go and goof off on snow for a job. The people that I've met through snowboarding have been incredible. And honestly, like they're family at this point. I couldn't see my life without them. And so then, I got to dive head first into snowboarding and just really, really go for it. And I'm glad I did, because you're right. There does come a point where you kind of have to make that decision of like, all right, sports are a volatile thing and there's early peaks. And so I knew if I was going to be successful, I had to just full commit, full send it. Moved out to Colorado. I was living with my parents in California at the time, and was just like, yep, this is what I'm doing. Academically, I'd been doing pretty well, actually. And it was something that created a lot of tension at home.
Really?
Yes. Because I was doing well all throughout high school. I was getting good grades. I was starting to take like some, kind of pre-college courses. And when I got my SAT and ACT scores back, they were pretty good. I started applying to all the colleges I wanted to go to, and the one that I was planning on going to, I got accepted and had been given like an $8,000 academic scholarship.
That helps.
So I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. And so then my parents were, over the moon, and they were like, all right, sweet, let's book the tickets. You're going to college. And so I was going to go a year early. And it was going to be great. I was going to excel, and I was going for nursing. And and then I get the call from my snowboard coach at the time. And he's like, hey man, so like the new schedule's out and we got the first World Cup coming up in November. So let's start talking about like some tickets. Let's start talking about early season training. And I was like, so actually, I'm going to be busy for the fall semester. I'm going to college. And he was like, you're only 17. And I was like, yeah. So I got in early and it's a big deal. They gave me a scholarship. This is kind of where you're supposed to go. And he was like, oh, well, I want to tell you congrats. Not going to lie, I'm a little disappointed. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, dude, I really, he's like, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But just hear me out for a sec. Yep. And he just told me, he's like, listen, I think you got a lot of potential here. And I think, it's not an easy decision to make. But I think if you were to really commit to this, you can go back to college. College will always be there. And I was like, that's a fair point. And he's like, yep, I know you got the head start and everything, and I'm sure your parents really want you to go. Yep. My parents wanted me to go so bad. And he was like, but I really think, he's like, this is a risk that you'll have to decide on for yourself, but you have to think of it this way. Where are you going to be happiest? Where do you think your time is going to be spent the best? In college, doing what you do really well, getting your degree and potentially, helping save people's lives, which I'm sure you'll do great at. You care about people. Or do you think you could potentially be happier, if not at least just like, would you have any regrets if you didn't go for snowboarding? And I was like, why'd you have to hit me with that one? And he goes, it's your call. There's no wrong answer. You just got to pick what's right for you. And I'm glad that he said that, right? Because like
you didn't feel the pressure. You felt he cared about you.
I was 17, dude. That's that's a hard age to be making permanent decisions about your life. And just kind of being given it that way of like, listen, this is your call and it's up to you. Where do you think your life is going to be like? Where do you think you're going to find the most fulfillment? And then I made the choice. I canceled my flight, walked into my parents' bedroom, and I explained the situation, and they shot out of bed. They were like, all right, let's not make any hasty decisions. You know, we can talk about this. And I was like, there's nothing to talk about. I know where I want to be, and I have to at least try. The good news is I was at a head start. So if it doesn't work out, I can always come back and I'll only be like 1 year off the curve. That's fine. I just have to see this through first. And moved back out to Colorado and just spent every last penny I had on trying to make my way to the 2018 games.
Okay. And obviously, although you tried, you did not. How close were you to making those games in 2018?
I missed it by 50 points, which sounds like a lot. Until you look at the way that points are awarded for results. I had gone back, and at one of the races, specifically the one in Canada, had I been 0.04 of a second faster. 0.04 of a second
the
faster.
Smallest of margins.
I'm pretty sure you blink slower than that. That crushed my soul because I had been getting told by people on the U.S. team, "You're coming.
You're the next guy."
I had been taken to the test event the season before and was being brought on by the coaches because they were like, "We want you to be familiar with the team by the time you're joining us for the games next season." And so like I had been prepped, right? There were expectations. And then we get to the very last World Cup right before the games. And, you know, the US coach calls all US athletes for this big USA team meeting where they're going to announce the team that's going. And they start reading off the names and they get to my category and they name 3 other guys and then they move to the next category. And I remember how that felt because every single person in the room, and like including the 3 guys who just got named, all of them turned and looked at me. And having that many eyes on you,
your face is going red. You start getting a little emotional.
I wanted to cease to exist so bad, like just wanted to blink out of existence and just not be there anymore. It was so harsh. Like I was so ready to represent and like be a Paralympian and go and do the thing. And I felt like I had done so well. Like I had beaten out a lot of the other guys to get there. And then right at the end, they're like, "Listen, you qualified in one discipline, but we needed you to be closer in the other. And because you came up that short, it just doesn't make sense logistically. We have to go with the other guy." And I was like,
and that's the other thing about the Olympic and the Paralympic movement is you don't have a chance that next year. You don't have a chance. You have to wait 4 years.
There's not always next year.
No, and you never know. And fortunately, you were very young when this happened. I kind of the same thing. I was at the Olympic Games in 2010, and my team crashed. We were ranked 3rd in the world. I had a chance to win a bronze medal or potentially a silver medal. We actually crashed and took last place. And I remember saying being on that dock and just going through my phone, the amount of text messages, Facebook messages, being like, because everyone was the day before, they were so excited to watch me. People were having watch parties. And all of a sudden, it's like I took last place and failed on that huge stage. And it was tough. It took me a couple months, had some good moments. I didn't go into deep depression where it got weird. But obviously because you had some success in those following seasons, what was your why and how did you rebound after that disappointment in 2018?
That's a great question, and I can answer it after I tell you about the other thing that happened because it was the same principle that got me through. So I'd missed 2018 by that much, literally blink of an eye. That was also difficult for me because that was the point in life where I was supposed to have made a decision where I was going, and then I felt completely lost, right? So now I'm 19 years old. All of my friends have already gone to college. They've already made friends. Now I'm like 2 years behind. And the expectation was, okay, you didn't make it. Time to go back. Time to get back on course, with the regular expectations of life. And that was another hard call because then I had to get on the phone with my parents and be like, "I'm not going back to college. I'm gonna try another 4 years," because I was this close. Like I may not have made it, but I proved that I could. And to me, that was enough to keep going. Then the next 4 years comes and goes, and I have some successes. Like I really started to earn my spot as like a competitor, a guy to beat on the circuit. Leading the year into the Beijing games, I won my first world championship title So then I became the best in the world. And then I went to China with the expectation that I was going to win.
You're going to win.
Because I'm the best in the world. I'm literally the guy to beat going into this competition.
World champ that year prior. Everything's going great for you.
Everything was going so great. In fact, I had just won my title, right? In front of the whole world. Friends were watching from home, which was an incredible experience, right? You're getting all the messages. We had one more World Cup, and then we were going to go to the games. It was like a 2-month gap. And so we go to this last World Cup. It was in Sweden. And I pull out on course. I was in such a good mood that I remember getting my board from my serviceman who had put the wax on it. And he was like, go out there and just have a good one today. That's all that matters. You just have a good day today. You're a world champ. Go enjoy it. And I was like, I will. Put my board down, strapped in, pulled out on course. I went to go off of a jump. And just in standing up to prepare for the jump, I felt the most pain I have ever felt in my entire life. There was a flash of light and I could not feel, see, hear anything.
Wow.
It was a shock to my entire system. I went off the jump. I landed. I immediately just pulled off to the side because I couldn't feel anything and just basically crashed on purpose. And I was laying there in the snow just trying to breathe through the pain. And this course official comes up and he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I can't sit up. I need you to unstrap my snowboard for me. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, just unstrap the bindings. I can't breathe. And so he unstraps my board and I'm just pulling my legs up so I can arch my back a little bit and breathe comfortably. And I had no idea what was wrong, but just everything hurt. I get loaded onto a snowmobile and brought down to my hotel room. And I missed the next 2 days of racing. I slept in my gear because I couldn't take my own clothes off. And when I finally could not wait any longer to go to the bathroom, I rolled myself out of bed and took 2.5 hours just to go pee.
Wow. I
was in so much pain. I fly home to get some answers. I go into an MRI machine and it turns out I have destroyed 2 discs in the base of my spine, between my L5 and S1 and the one right above that. And yeah, when he got the scans back, he's like, explains why you're in so much pain. The base of your spine is literally just grinding on bones now. Yeah. So, yeah.
And you're weeks out from the games at this point.
Yeah. Not the best timing.
No, not at all.
So I asked him, what are my options? And he was like, I don't know. You're going to have to go home and rest. We're going to have to figure out what's the best way to tackle this. But generally, when an injury like this happens, we just fuse those vertebrae together. And I was like, well, wait, if I fuse those? And he's like, oh, you'll never touch your toes again. Your snowboard career is done.
So you go from this huge high, having been a world champion, on your way to the games to win yourself a medal, and you're told you may never snowboard again.
I drove home that night, wake up the next morning, still in so much pain. And that's when I got the email, you've been selected for the Winter Paralympic men's team. I couldn't tie my own shoes. It still took me an hour to go to the bathroom. And I was like, how am I going to, I don't know what to do. Yeah. So I called my coach. I explained the situation. I said, listen, I'm not giving up yet. I still want my spot. Just give me 2 weeks to figure this out. And he goes, that's all you have.
Yeah.
You have 2 weeks until you need to be on a flight to LA to go through team processing so you can get on the plane and go to the games.
Especially during COVID and all the madness that was going on.
So I go back to the doctor and I just start begging for options. And they're not giving me a whole lot. I'm like, listen, what meds are approved, safe for sport? So I'm not taking steroids or anything, but can I make it any worse by snowboarding? And the doctor goes, no, you can't make it any worse. You destroyed them. Yeah, the discs are
they're gone. Yeah.
And I went, okay, so then it's just pain that's holding me back. And I remember the look he gave me of dude, what is wrong with you? And I was like, okay, so then just is there a medication I could take that would just block the pain? Just give me a nerve blocker or just something to just a big ibuprofen pill, and then I'll just go. And he was like, dude, I'm not going to do that. And so we had to go back and forth, and we came up with so many different plans. The one we finally settled on was an epidural. We got it cleared, and the USOPC said they would cover the cost. Okay. And a week and a half before I flew to Beijing, I was put under with a giant needle in my spine and given a fat epidural. I went home. I recovered for 5 days. And then I got ready to go to LA, go through team processing, and I made my way to the games. And I remember being at there, like at the top of the course, and I was staring out at the course, and I had this real serious look on my face, and my coach could tell that I was just like, I was overthinking. And he goes, what are you thinking about right now? And I was like, I want to make it to turn 1 first so bad. Like, that's the goal, is just make it to turn 1 first. And he goes, dude, the fact that you're standing here right now
is an accomplishment.
Is insane.
Yeah.
Like, just take a second. And I appreciated that, because then I was able to stop and just like take a breath, take in my surroundings. I had made it to the games. Yep. I was objectively like a Paralympian. I was going to be that for the rest of my life. I look off into the distance. I see the Great Wall of China, you know, going over the hills. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It is an accomplishment just to be here. But I'm still a competitor.
Yep.
I didn't come here to participate.
Yep.
I'm still a world champion.
Yeah.
I want to win. And it was not in the cards. I was not at 100%. The course was just really wide open, and it favored a lot of the bigger guys. Okay. And I couldn't put it together. Yeah. I ended up walking away with, I think, a 16th or 15th place and a 13th place. Okay. Which was
not where your expectations were.
Brutal, dude. Right. Everybody expected me to win going into that. And I had to come home to just hugs. Yeah. You know, I couldn't go out and party with any of my friends, because what was there to celebrate, right? Yeah. And I remember like that, because then I was like, dude, I started having serious doubts. Yeah. I had finally made it. Yeah. I was an elite level athlete. I was one of the best in the world. I had just represented the United States at the games, the biggest athletic platform. Like, by all means, on paper, I've done it. I've succeeded. I've accomplished so many of my dreams. And yet I felt like I had done everything wrong. Yeah. I had picked the wrong sport. I had just made every mistake possible to set myself up for failure, right? Because like, how else do you get that far and then fall short? And that's the thing that like, I feel like only sports can do.
Yes.
Is humble you like that, where you start to create expectations for yourself, and other people create expectations for you, and then you don't meet them. And that's brutal.
Rushing.
Dude. Like, took away my love for the sport entirely. Yeah. And I had no idea what to do. And the thing that saved me was going out with some friends.
Okay. So it was friendships you had built.
It was early April, and some friends had come in for like a little ski trip, and they were just like, "You're in town, like you're free, right? Yep. Come ride with us." And we just went out. There were no expectations. Yep. We didn't talk about the games a single time all day. We just went out. We were looking for runs in the trees to go find some extra snow, and we were just out there having fun. And that was when I was like, oh, right. Yeah. Even though I'm a competitor and I find my identity in like my performance, competition, right? This is a big thing to me. It obviously means a lot to me. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't a competitor. Yep. It's not what it's about.
Yep. I think that's one of the hardest things for athletes. It teaches us that, but also that balance between always wanting to get better. There's times where I've won races and won a gold World Cup medal and been like, I pushed a little slower. My load was slow, but also enjoying the moment. And it is hard. I think it's an important thing to learn. One is that just ups and downs are just part of sports. They're part of life. And the quicker you can do that, but have the consistency and the discipline to keep coming back day after day. But then again, finding those times to where you're going all in, but also finding some downtime to rebalance and there's been a lot of talks on this about mental health lately and how important that is. So that's awesome to hear. But I think kids have a hard time with that perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost this game. I can't do this. I hear the word can't. I still coach kids when I'm home. And I tell them, do not say that word, or say, hey, like I failed. I even the word failure, I go back and forth like, hey, you had just a bad day, because failing is when you quit. You can do it. Exactly. By trying to tell people like, hey, every athlete misses shots. Every athlete doesn't win a race. They don't hit the shot they want to hit. They don't cross finish line first. And so just be okay with that, but just keep that goal in mind. But you were fortunate. You've had some great friends. You bounced back, and you came back the next year and did well enough to win what I think is a really cool award. Outside of a Olympic medal, a Super Bowl trophy, Zach here was nominated for and won the ESPY award in 2023 for best male athlete with a disability.
Yeah.
I just want to pull that down if you don't mind. You have it here on the shelf. The thing I love about the ESPYs, again, you're with athletes from all different sports. And that night, they were honoring Jamal Murray Nikola Jokic, a bunch of athletes that are just phenomenal athletes, and just to see yourself, like, describe a little about that experience of being born with cerebral palsy and making the Paralympics, not doing as well as you want to, but still being a world champion.
Yeah.
And what was that moment, I guess, the validation, or what did that feel like, just to be surrounded by the world's best female and male athletes?
Yeah, that's what the significance of that award is to me. Is honestly, if we're being honest, the ESPY has nothing to do with my actual snowboarding. Yeah. It's not any measure of my snowboarding. It's not a result from a race. It's a popularity contest, really. And so sometimes I was kind of shy to talk about it for a while, because I was just like, I'd rather talk about like the actual times I was the fastest snowboarder in the world. But the more I've spent time thinking about it and looking at it for what it is, the more I've really realized that it does hold a special place in my career. Yeah. For me, being a disabled athlete, we have always struggled with the same visibility and recognition as some of the other world's best athletes. And, I think there's so much we could spend time talking about, with the dedication and the same work that a lot of Paralympic athletes put in. We're working just as hard as all the Olympic guys,
if not harder sometimes.
But there's no way to show the world, right? There's no way to feel like we're still included when the conversation is about elite level sports, because we're not on the same field. And that part sucks, right? That's like one of the just facts of life that's always been a little tough for me to swallow. Yeah. But that's where I feel like the ESPY kind of bridges that gap, is because for me, like growing up as a kid, I always kind of just saw one thing looking back at me in the mirror, and it was a kid with a disability, right? I knew that I loved sports and that I wanted to be a professional athlete somehow, some way, but most of the feedback that I got, and it was from people who cared about me, it was from my teachers, it was from my parents, it was from like family that wanted the best for me. They were like, hey, this dream that you have of being a professional athlete, let's maybe, let's play to your strengths, right? They tried to voice it in a real positive way and just be like, let's focus on the academic career. That's going really well for you. Let's try and just, sports can be something you can do for fun, but maybe don't put all your eggs in that basket. And while I don't look back on any of like those conversations as like, you were wrong and you didn't believe in me, they were looking out for me. And to an extent, sometimes you do have to kind of be realistic, right? But there's a difference, right, between like being realistic and knowing that there are opportunities out there and at least just trying. Like there's never anything you're going to lose by going out there and trying. And so for me, like I said, like that was a big part of my identity, is I was this disabled kid. It was one of the biggest reasons why I was also attracted to snowboarding, is because snowboarding, you're wearing this gear head to toe and nobody can tell who you are. Yeah. For me, that was like freeing, because suddenly I wasn't just a kid with a disability with the skinny legs out there who was trying to learn how to turn. I was just a kid out on snow, having fun, going as fast as he could. And people saw that and they bought into it, right? They would cheer me on. And so that was what made me initially fall in love with snowboarding, was the fact that I felt like I could get away from all that. I could just be myself and I could go as fast as I wanted to go. As I started to get older, I started to realize that like my disability is a fact of life. It's a part of me. There's no getting around it, but it doesn't have to mean something that's negative. And I learned that lesson through the community, through getting involved with other people with disabilities who were going out there and snowboarding. Some of the people on my team, dude, like Noah Elliott was one of the guys. He just won the ESPY for this year. This week, he just won the ESPY for Best Athlete with a Disability. Awesome. Our team now has 4 ESPYs on it for Best Athlete with a Disability, because we crush it. Like
how inspiring is that, though, for kids with disabilities, and not just, but to keep that space very open for everyone. I think it's for kids at school. Again, we all go through junior high and high school, and those aren't easy times for anyone.
No, not at all.
But just the way you treat people, and you never know what people are going through and what people are capable of if they have that support system, and if they have people that can, great coaches, great parents, and great friends that can help you achieve what you're capable of. And I don't think you as a person don't always know what you're capable of. But it's your friends, family, and coaches that really help to pull it out. And again, it's the first time I've actually held one in person.
Yeah,
This is
it's big.
a really cool award. So
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Like I said, Noah just won one. He's an above knee amputee. He lost his leg to cancer.
Oh, wow.
And he rides better than most able-bodied people can.
Wow.
Like he absolutely
Just
goes out there and shreds. Yeah, he's one of the biggest like reasons why I like going out there and just like shredding with him. And that's what the ESPY ended up driving home for me, was that for the longest time I had been told that world was out of reach. That, those were the world's best athletes, and that I could be down here, if I made it. And when I got the nomination, I actually had no idea. I found out through getting tagged on an Instagram story that I had been nominated for an ESPY alongside Michaela Schifrin.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm on the same page as Michaela Schifrin.
She was an absolute beast.
And then I opened the page of nominations, and I started going through all the other names of people who were nominated.
It's insane.
Lionel Messi was on there.
Yeah, I saw that.
Max Verstappen was on there. Yeah. LeBron James was on there. Like, these are athletes I've looked up to, ever since.
You're on the same stage in the same building. With
and
those
right
athletes.
there, in that same list is Zach Miller representing snowboarding.
Yeah.
And when I got there to the stage and I was sharing the red carpet with him and everything, I still felt there was still a little bit of imposter syndrome at play because I wasn't as big profile as a lot of these other athletes. But then when I won the ESPY later that night, one of the coolest things that happened was Aiden Hill, the goaltender for the Vegas Golden Knights, who was also there nominated for an ESPY. I had shared breakfast with him that morning because I went down there. My mom went down early and she just sat next to him and was talking to him. And when I got there, I was like, Mom, do you know who you're sitting next to? And she was like, oh, he's this really nice man. He was telling me all about Las Vegas and everything.
Apparently
that's where he's from. And I was like, yeah, that's Aiden Hill. Like, he just won a Stanley Cup.
Yep.
And at the end of the night, after I'd won that, he came over and asked me for a picture. And having that is amazing. That experience to me was just like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like, this is where I belong. I've worked just as hard to make it to this stage. And when it came down to it, I earned it. Like, I put the work in. The reason I got nominated for this is because I went to World Championships that year and brought home 3 medals for the United States, a gold, silver, and bronze. I got my second world champ title and everything. And so, that's what this symbolizes.
Yep.
It sits on my fireplace. I walk past it every morning when I go to eat breakfast, and it's the proof.
Casual ESPY award there.
Before I even get my day
mantle.
started.
Yeah,
that's the proof that what I'm going to do today, I earned, and I do belong here.
That's very powerful. Let's touch on that, I guess. How much now that we're 7 months out from the Paralympics?
Yeah,
in Milan Cortina here. What do you think has changed, or how much more prepared do you feel now going into 2026 based off of all the ups and downs that you have had? How much mentally stronger are you now, and how important is that for you?
I think I'm ready to enjoy it. That's what I'm ready to go do. I'm putting the work in now to set myself up for success and hopefully bring something shiny home.
Yep.
But I have the lesson I've been learning recently is that you got to fall in love with the process. You got to just put the work in. And then when you do that and you trust the process and you show up even on the days where you don't want to and where you're not going to do well, right? Like, that's one of the things I'm working in with the gym is I'll show up and not feel 100%. And I just tell my coach that. And he's like, okay, then we're not pushing for maxes, but we're still going to put the reps in. Yep. And doing that, I know will set me up for a good shot at the games. I'm ready to go there, represent, make USA proud. But no matter what, I'm going to walk away from that competition knowing, number one, I gave it my all and I left everything out on snow. Number two, that I was a good representative of my sport and my team. And that number three, I'm coming home to people that I can hug and love. No matter what happens, the results are not why I do it. Yep. The pressure is the privilege. When I get up to the gate, I guarantee you're going to see a smile on my face. Because even though it's going to be a very stressful moment and there's going to be a lot that's up in the air and nobody knows what's going to happen next, that's what keeps me coming back to the sport, is that this is what I love. I love the fact that I don't know what's going to happen next. And I can train as much as I want and still fall short for the results that I want. But it's that I get to wake up every day and I get to try and be a better snowboarder, be a better athlete, build my sport, get the word out there. You should watch bordercross and snowboarding.
Absolutely.
If you're someone with a disability or without, you should try snowboarding because it's pretty fun.
It's really fun.
And that's what sports really are all about.
Okay. I was going to end with 2 quick questions. The point of this podcast is for athletes, coaches, and parents to listen to it together. There's a lot of good lessons, advice, and stories from the top athletes in the world, yourself being one of them. So what is one of the best coaches you had, and what's a piece of advice that they have shared with you that's made you the athlete you are today?
I would have to say it's a piece of advice that comes from one of my development coaches, Daniel Gale. He played a pretty big role in like getting me to the U.S. team. He ran a development team that fed a lot of athletes onto the Paralympic team. And it's kind of cheesy, but he said, you got to scare yourself once a day. And that was kind of a theme for training, is sometimes we would get to, a jump or a feature that I had never tackled before. And he was just like, listen, you just got to scare yourself once a day. You just got to go into it. You know that you've put the work in and that you're, a pretty good all around snowboarder. You're going to be able to handle whatever's on the other side of it, but you're not going to build as a person or an athlete or a snowboarder if you don't get out of that comfort zone just a little bit. And there's ways that you can do it, that aren't just, in a safe way, but also that like aren't so sport specific. There's tons of different things that you can do to get yourself out of that comfort zone.
Build that confidence, go through some hard times and just improve.
Just survive it. Yeah. And sometimes like you don't have to succeed, but you get through it and then you learn. And that's how you progress.
Okay. And the last question we'll kind of close with is, what piece of advice or what trait would you have wanted to go back and maybe tell your 10-year-old self, your 12-year-old self, and the kids that are out there listening to this podcast? What's a piece of advice that you have for them if they're going through a hard time or trying to become the best in their sport?
That good sportsmanship is more important than a good performance.
Yeah.
I never did anything that I like look back on and feel shame about, but there were moments where I could have been more of a leader for my team or for my sport or just for myself that I feel like would have served me more than being so focused on what the result was. Like if you are interested in sports, it means at some level you are competitive and you do care about the results. But what's becoming more and more important to me today is the kind of legacy that I'll have within my sport. I want to be known as someone who was a competitor, right? I want to be like, oh, you're lucky you weren't around when Zach was here.
He was, dangerous on the hill.
Because that guy was difficult to beat. You knew if you were up against him, your life was going to be hard for the next few runs. But I also want them to finish that statement by saying, but dude, he had your back. Like, even if you were one of his competitors, you knew that at the end of the run, you were getting a hug from him. That when you got up on the podium with him, that he was going to put his arm around you and you were going to celebrate together.
Yeah, that's a great point. Kind of keeping that perspective again. Winning is important, and winning, you want to win, but don't burn bridges, don't burn relationships in the moment when emotions are high.
You need your competition.
That's good. That's awesome.
As much as you don't like them, you need them.
I love it. Well, again, Zach the Mountain Miller, follow him on Instagram, follow his journey. He will be competing in the Paralympics here in March is when it starts.
Yep.
So follow, track his journey. Again, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.